I'm delighted to welcome everybody here to our 44th AGM in your lovely city of Norwich. I have to say we've had a wonderful warm welcome, and I'm absolutely astounded by the distance some of you have actually travelled to be here today, so really delighted that you've made the effort. Thank you very much indeed. My name's Barbara Hayes, and I'm deeply honoured to have been promoted to the role of Chief Executive from the 1st of this month, so I'm 24 days in. And also excited to be sharing with you today our plans for the future, as well as looking at what we've achieved over the recent past. To those of you who have joined us via Zoom today, a hearty welcome. One positive aspect of lockdown is that many of us are now used to a hybrid way of working, and this allows these events to be much more inclusive than it has in the past. Before we start, just some quick pieces of housekeeping. Could I ask everyone in the hall to switch any mobile phones to silence? Done that one. And in the unlikely event of a fire alarm sounding, it will be real. So if that happens, these are the exits, there and there. And you can follow our staff on the way out. No, I'm sure they'll be there to help you along.
In a stampede.
Anyway, I'd now like to introduce you to our chair, Tony Bradman, to begin the AGM. Tony.
Thank you. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. An apology to start with before I get into the script. I'm in mufti today. I did come up in my suitcase. I had in my suitcase my suit, nice suit, white shirt, nice tie, my best shoes. And someone took my suitcase off the train yesterday. So, interestingly enough, it's been found, and it's someone who lives in Norwich. His mother-in-law had picked up the wrong suitcase, and she went back to Norwich. She went back to London. I said to him, "London? Where does she live?" And he said, "Oh, she lives in Crystal Palace. I live about a mile from there." So she'd taken it back. My wife's picked it up this morning. And so it only goes to show I'm born and brought up in South London. You can take the boy out of South London. You can't take South London out of the boy, and you certainly can't take his suitcase out of London because it wants to go back by itself. So my suitcase has been on a longer journey than I have. Okay, well now we hit the script. Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to welcome you today to the Alcs Annual General Meeting 2022, which, as Barbara said, is being held for the first time in Norwich, a fine city, as I know very well. I did a course at UEA when I was 19. Two of my children did their degrees at UEA, and my wife's family came from Norwich too, so they're all out there still, and in Wymondham and Great Yarmouth and Swaffham and places like that. So it's lovely to be here, and this is a fantastic venue, absolutely fantastic. The amazing hall we are in today has a wealth of history, not just as the current National Centre for Writing since 2018, following the designation of Norwich as a UNESCO City of Literature. It was also a medieval trading hall built in about 1427 by a wealthy merchant as a business complex to display, store and sell Norfolk goods and imports from Europe and beyond. It is thought to be unique in being the only such trading hall in Northern Europe owned by one man, one of my wife's ancestors, I think. It is now acknowledged as one of Norwich's medieval architectural gems and an iconic building in the city. I can see why. She was actually baptised in Peter Mancroft. Anyone know Peter Mancroft? Sorry, I've gone too far then. One of our aims as an organisation is to meet as many of our members around the country as we can. This has obviously been dampened a bit by the effect of the pandemic, but as we get back into the swing of things, we're delighted to once more take our AGM outside of London this year to Norwich, of course, but also to live stream this event to our membership at large, so everyone who wants to can be involved. At ALCS, we do a great deal of lobbying, and our advocacy department is highly efficient, a real centre of excellence. We work directly with government and also alongside the all-party parliamentary writers group. The Authors' Earnings Survey is our opportunity to present evidence to influencers within the various government departments and select committees to press our case for fairer conditions for writers. There are both threats and opportunities heading our way, and we want to be best placed to do the best we can for you, our members. ALCS also provides the Secretariat for the All-Party Writers Group, and this collection of crossbench MPs has been both interested and instrumental in raising issues through debate, parliamentary questions, and by direct contact with ministers. This way, we can certainly play our part in highlighting the issues and in doing so pushing for change. Closer to home, I can say that at ALCS, we can paint a rosier picture. In 2021 to 22, we collected over £39.6 million and paid out a record £41 million to over 99,800 writers. That's more writers than we've ever paid before in 1 year. Our membership of over 100,000, I think Colette today said it was 117,000, what it is now, is increasing at a rate of knots, and our lifetime figures now sit at an impressive 600 million plus paid out to members since we began in 1977. In recent months, you will have seen that we've carried out an election for 2 new members on the ALCS board. The new incumbents of these posts will be announced later this afternoon, and I'd like to thank all of you who took the time to vote in the election. It really is important that the board is reflective of the membership and that you truly feel we represent your interests. Now I'd like to pass you back to Barbara, our new CEO, and the ALCS team, who will give you more detail on how we have performed over the last 12 months and what the plans are for the future.
Thank you, Tony, and thank you again for coming to this AGM. It's always a pleasure to come and meet members, and I've met a lot of you today, so thank you for your time there, and connect you with our work in support of authors. One thing I should say, because I don't think it's anywhere in the script, is it's actually our 45th birthday this year. So just to put it out there that we have been going 45 years now, and we're very pleased that it's gone as smoothly as it has for so many years, but we'll be looking to the future today. Over the past couple of years, holding an AGM in person has been either impossible or inadvisable. So we're delighted to be here today in Norwich in this lovely Dragon Hall. It's an amazing place in a city renowned for its writing talent. The booklet we were given when we were looking around for a venue to host this AGM stated that the Dragon Hall site, with its long history, tells a tale of 1,000 years of people struggling, prospering, and adapting to their situation and environment. And that's exactly what writers have been doing through the ages, and something ALCS has had the privilege of trying to help you to adapt and prosper over the last 45 years. We've all experienced a lot of change over the past few years, not least at ALCS, where our former CEO, Owen Atkinson, retired at the end of October after 25 years with the company. And also our current chair, Tony Bradman, will be standing down at the end of this year as well. But fear not, your board is well versed in all things ALCS, and the senior leadership team actually has over a century of combined experience of the organisation. That makes us feel like dinosaurs, I think, at this stage. But anyway, just to say that everything's in good hands. And also we'll be announcing our new chair later in the proceedings today. So it's been both an extraordinary and exciting time for ALCS. Now, sadly, not all of our staff could travel with us today up to Norwich. So we have created a short video looking at the performance of the company over the past year, which we'd like to share with you now and hope that you will enjoy. And fingers crossed, the video will work.
This year in operations, we've had a record-breaking distribution with 97,976 members, each being paid a share of £26.8 million in March 2022.
Around 40,000 members have received their first payment from the Author Share initiative for the sales of their second-hand books. We're excited to see this number continue to grow.
ALCS celebrated 45 years of supporting authors this year. To mark the occasion, we filmed co-founder Maureen Duffy talking about the early years of the organization. We continue to celebrate writers in creativity in Season 2 of our podcast, on Instagram Live, and in ALCS News.
2022 saw us achieve a significant milestone as our membership exceeded 115,000 members. This was a fantastic achievement for the whole team. We've also continued to provide an exceptional customer service throughout as we transitioned over to a more hybrid working setup.
In the past year, the IT team have completed migrating all of our systems to cloud technologies. This gives us the flexibility to work where and how we need to best meet the business objectives. It also unlocks the potential performance and scalability requirements we have to meet our future goals.
We successfully expanded the Reteach platform to also launch a geography module, and many teachers have outlined how the resource has been a key tool in expanding and redesigning their curriculum offer. We also joined other creators' organizations to form the Audiovisual Licensing Alliance, which will collect royalties for the use of audiovisual works in a variety of sectors so that we can maximize our members' income.
So in the UK advocacy team this year, we successfully managed to partner with the National Literacy Trust on the National Reading Champions Quiz, where we engage with MPs on issues like children's access to reading and to books, and that was really successful, and that's something we'll be able to carry on year. We also, with your help, managed to delay the international exhaustion decision with the Intellectual Property Office. We asked you to write to your local MPs, and alongside advocacy work from our side, the IPO have delayed the decision.
Thank you very much. That certainly makes me feel very proud when I saw that for the first time. So that was brilliant. And it's nice that we could bring some of our team up here, even if it was only remotely on the video there. So I'm sure you'll all agree it's been a pretty outstanding year, and we hope to improve on this for the next financial year. I'd like to share with you what we've achieved over the last 3-year strategic plan and highlight for the future what we've got for our 5-year plan ahead so that you know what our goals are that's been set by your board. So in terms of our performance, I'd like to start with the income collected by ALCS. Over the last 3 years, we collected over £116.8 million for writers. Our income from overseas has averaged out at just over £14 million per annum. And this, I think, recognises the outstanding value and reach of UK writing globally. Better still, over this time, we've distributed over £116.2 million to our members. And the last 3 years have been either record years or close to record years in our history in terms of licence income collected. But, just like stocks and shares, income and distributions can go down as well as up. So I am aiming to manage your expectations as we navigate ahead during very unusual and unpredictable times. Talking of stocks and shares, our investment income has also yielded just slightly under £3 million over the past 3 years. Of course, these changes day to day, especially in these volatile times. More importantly, our income continues to diversify as the number of countries and uses that we collect from increases. We have agreements with more than 50 societies in over 40 countries worldwide. I'd now like to hand over briefly to our Head of Membership and Operations, Colette Scorse, to talk a little bit about the growing ALCS membership. Thanks, Colette.
Thank you, Barbara. Before we go on to talk about our future strategic plans, I'd like to bring you up to date with a few membership figures. The ALCS membership currently stands at 117,000 members, having reached a milestone of 100,000 back in 2018, and it's growing at a rate of around 3,000 to 5,000 new members year on year. Membership growth took a new turn when a single tier of membership was introduced in 2006, and with the establishment of a dedicated team of researchers, we went from strength to strength as the membership grew rapidly and writers were reunited with their earnings in secondary income. At the core of our research department, also known fondly as our detective agency, are our two senior researchers, Jack and Gaynor. You may yourselves have been contacted by them in the past. They diligently search for writers for whom we're holding money and never give up on those who they don't find in an initial search. In fact, around a third of all members who apply for ALCS membership were contacted directly via the research department, demonstrating the value of the work that they do. Aside from those contacted by ALCS, most new members hear about us through word of mouth. So please remember that you, our members, are our best source of PR and validation. So please continue to talk to your writer friends and colleagues. The researchers not only search for new members, but also focus their efforts on those who may have temporarily lost sight of ALCS and, for example, forgotten to update their bank details. But there are many processes in place to bring these members back into the fold to ensure that they receive the fees they're due and maximise their earning potential. The team's efforts are also directed towards identifying and recruiting the beneficiaries or representatives of estates, as we can continue to pay any money accrued for a deceased author's works for up to 70 years. Finally, from me, a reminder to all members to please remember to regularly log on to the members area to update your works and make sure you tell us of any changes to your personal or bank details so that we can do what we're here for and pay you in at least one of our 2 distributions a year. Thank you.
Thank you, Colette. I would just echo what Colette has said about you are our best PR out there. If you have friends and colleagues or family that write, please do tell them about us. It's amazing how difficult it is to give money away at a time when people need it. But obviously there's so many scams out there that it's easy for this to look like some kind of lottery. So please do, wherever you can, let people know that ALCS is a valid organisation and that we are here to help writers. So that one's over to you. So to the future. We have a 5-year strategic plan. Now our purpose is to support, to champion and to fight for you and your rights. Now your board and the senior leadership team looked at the different strands of opportunities to support our purpose. And we identified 5 high-level goals. So the first goal, to support, unsurprisingly, to support your ability to write by increasing your income. And that is no mean feat in the current economic climate. And yes, we do have potential concerns on the fallout from Brexit, the cost of living crisis, but we are aiming for a record distribution this year at around £44.7 million to help you. Now, if there are pennies down the back of the proverbial sofa that we can distribute to you, rest assured we will. Our focus going forward is very much about finding new sources of income for you and maximising current income streams. And our Deputy Chief Executive will be talking about this in more detail shortly. Authors are the wealth generators of the UK's creative industries, and I'd thank Tony Bradman for that quote. Sorry, just have to make sure we apply all the rules. You deserve to be fairly rewarded for your creative endeavours. Aim number 2 is we want to educate as many people as possible to promote the respect for copyright. Now, to achieve this, we'll continue to collaborate with our influential partners, such as the National Literacy Trust, First Story, the Carnegie Awards and others in schools to raise awareness of copyright. We've also developed our own resources to educate students, and these can be found on our website, and I would say well worth a look. Aim number 3, we want to make the complex easy. And if there's anybody amongst you, I was trying to explain to a gentleman at the back over there exactly what ALCS was about, because we know that we can seem quite mysterious at times, and we do want to make that complex, the complex easy. And when you're dealing with many rows of data, sometimes this seems like an insurmountable task. Sorry, many millions of rows of data. But in the next few years, we have a major goal to invest in and develop our strategic systems. That includes databases, automation project, and data warehouse development. It was only recently that I realised how IT look at the terminology here, and we had a database project, but I've been strictly told that it is far more than that in strategic systems, because it encompasses so much, and it really is a big project, and it really does allow us to keep paying you in the most cost-effective way that we can, and as effectively and efficiently as we can. It's a giant job, but a very necessary project to make sure that we can continue to do what we are here to do for you. Aim number 4 is to celebrate the value you as a writer bring to our world and to give you a powerful collective voice. You are important. This means supporting you as being central to society. Our authors' earnings surveys have repeatedly identified significant reductions in the income of our members, as we heard at the panel earlier on. Now, your work must be properly valued both in the UK and abroad, and we are positioning ourselves to be heard loudly on this. And finally, we want to operate in an ethical and environmentally conscious way. We've recently moved into a WeWork space near Tower Bridge, and that's kind of an office within an office, and it's as lean and mean as you can get, but we wanted to keep costs down to make sure, and also in this hybrid world, we actually don't need a desk for everybody every day of the week. So we've economised there. And we're working in this hybrid world of some office and some home working. And we're also working in new ways. So our new office is very environmentally friendly, but we are looking at what else we could be doing. So our board and staff are looking at opportunities to reduce our carbon footprint, which we'll be reporting back on at future AGMs. So we have some clear goals, a strong heart to support you as much as we can, and a direction of travel we're setting out on. Now, thinking in terms of our costs. The net commission rate for last year was again lower than our baseline commission rate of 9.5%. And the final figure for the year was a commission rate of 8.7%. As a not-for-profit organisation, we aim, wherever possible, to return any unspent monies from our budget to you as a commission refund in the following year upon approval by the board. With regard to our investments, one of the ways in which we keep commission low is by prudently investing hard-to-distribute income into investment funds. Now, our Chief Finance Officer, Mark Bispham, will present our financial results a little later, but I would like to highlight that these investments have helped keep our commission rate low over the last 10 years. However, things are changing for us and our members. Costs are rising, however prudently managed, and changes are coming. At this AGM, we are seeking an increase in the baseline commission rate up to 11%, although initially we will need to increase the commission rate by 0.5% to 10%. At distribution time, this would mean an additional £1.80 deduction on your statement based on an average payment. So your board will always be in control of recommending any changes in the commission rate, but unfortunately costs are rising. Throughout our existence, we have only been able to collect fees and to pay them to you because of the laws that protect the copyright framework that exists not just in the United Kingdom, but in Europe and worldwide. That's why our advocacy and awareness-raising activities are so important. In the UK, we continue to work closely with the Society of Authors and the Writers Guild of Great Britain, as well as Directors UK, looking at the potential situation going forward post-Brexit, looking at the opportunities available to us and also trying to mitigate any potential threats. We also work closely with our partners at the Copyright Licensing Agency on our influencing activities. Recent concerns that we've also asked our members to write to their MPs on include increasing the funding pot for public lending right, a campaign against parallel import of books, also known as exhaustion, made possible as a result of Brexit, and most recently on our concern on the development of an arm's-length body by the government known as Oak National Academy, which might negatively impact on the income you all receive from us. Outside of the UK, ALCS has continued to support and administer the International Authors Forum, or IAF. The IAF plays an active role in discussions with the World Intellectual Property Organization in Geneva, and current issues are focused around greater copyright exceptions, with a risk of education exceptions in particular, which is not great news for authors. But also promoting PLR at international level so that governments and authors across the globe are aware, A, of its existence, and B, the benefit to authors. So there clearly continues to be a lot to be done to protect and promote authors' rights in the UK, Europe, and across the globe. And we'll work with our partners to protect your interests and share information on changes with you via the ALCS newsletter. So please, when it does arrive in your inbox, do please open it and see what we're up to. And we do quite often ask for your help, especially if we are trying to advocate for better rights for authors. As I mentioned, we've had at least 3 campaigns over the last year, and it really is important that you do get involved. So anything you can do to help us there, very much appreciated. I'd now like to pass you over to our new Deputy Chief Executive, Richard Coombs, to give you the latest on our business development priorities, which will have us heading in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to focus on 3 areas of business development this afternoon: UK audiovisual licensing, UK published licensing, and then speak a bit about the international markets. In terms of UK audiovisual licensing, you'll have seen from our accounts and transparency report that we have a number of mature, solid sources of revenue there, but there's more that we can do. And to try and take advantage of opportunities that are out there, as you heard on the video, we've started a new organisation, the Audiovisual Licensing Alliance, with other creators and producers in the field of UK independent productions. The goal is to start next year with licenses for corporate premises, so things like television sets in hotel bedrooms, big screens up on the wall in different companies. But longer term, we want to use this new group to look at digital markets. And you'll be aware that video sharing platforms like YouTube and TikTok survive on the back of your content, on clips and bits from TV and film. And writers don't really see any money from that, and we need to address that. So we're hoping that that new organisation will give us a platform to do that. Turning to published works, our main partner in this area, the Copyright Licensing Agency, will embark on a business development programme of its own in the coming year, and we'll obviously do everything we can to support that. But I'd like to touch on a couple of other areas in terms of your published works. One is journalism, and you'll probably be aware that there's been significant changes in the way that journalism and press publications are distributed, with a lot of content migrating from publishers to platforms like Facebook News and Google News. And this has created a bit of a funding crisis in the way that news is paid for. And if publishers don't have sufficient returns from their publications, they'll struggle to take on journalists, to pay journalists. So there's an issue there. There's a potential solution in the form of something that the government has set up called the Digital Markets Unit, whose job will be to look at these changes in broader creative markets and try and introduce fairer principles and fairer models. And we'll be making our presence felt in those conversations and doing our best to advocate for freelance journalists so they get a fair hearing in that debate and hopefully fair revenues from these new markets that are being created by the platforms. And finally, to touch on the international picture, I was talking to some of you at lunch and saying we missed the boat for a very good European directive We Brexited just at the wrong moment for the Digital Single Market Directive, which includes a lot of very visionary might be too strong, but some far-reaching provisions to make authors' rights easier to uphold. Now, notwithstanding the fact that we're no longer part of that legal regime, your works are still actively used in the secondary markets right across Europe. And so through our representation agreements with partner societies, we'll be looking to make sure that you get the benefit of those new rights, even if they're not directly applicable in the UK as yet. We have core markets in Europe, but always looking to develop new areas, and we know that UK works, whether it's published works, TV or film, travels all over the globe. So through the International Authors Forum, we'll be looking to foster organisations like ALCS in new territories to make sure that we have the opportunity to sign new agreements. And we'll be focusing on Central and South America, but in the future we want to look at Asian markets and Africa. Why do we do all this? Well, the numbers in the accounts look pretty good in terms of collections and distributions, but you all know very well that the way that your works are used and distributed is changing all the time. And we have to keep pace with that to ensure that we can keep paying you the money that we do. I'll now hand you over to Tony for the formal proceedings.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Barbara and Colette, as well, for all of that. We do now come to the formal proceedings of the AGM. There'll be a bit of moving around, getting up and sitting down as well. So, in accordance with the regulations introduced 6 years ago governing the operation of collecting societies, I can confirm that the non-executive members of the ALCS board meet periodically to monitor the performance of the management and to ensure that the policies approved by the members are being implemented. I am pleased to say that there are no issues or concerns regarding these matters to report to the members. Those members who are unable to attend the AGM are given the opportunity to provide electronic proxy votes for agenda items. So while we go through each resolution, we'll also show you details of any online votes that we've already received on that agenda item after you have voted. If you have already used the online voting system, please don't vote again today. The first item of formal business is the Director's Report. For each agenda item, we'll be asking for a proposer and a seconder from you, the members, so please don't be shy. I would now like to introduce you to Mark Bispham, our Chief Financial Officer. Mark will present our statutory accounts, and I propose that we take questions on both the Director's report and accounts after his presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's my role to give you an overview of the financial results of the company for the year to 31st of March 2022. Hopefully, you will already have had sight of the detail of the Director's report and accounts that are included in the annual report and are available on the ALCS website, so I intend to just run through a brief summary of the main highlights of the year. Licence income reduced slightly by 3.3% from last year's record level to 39.6 million, but that was still our second best ever year and our 12th in a row of collecting over £30 million. We collected money from 36 different countries, from Argentina to New Zealand, from Finland to Australia, and even from countries that haven't lost in the World Cup so far. We distributed a record £41 million to our members, 7.2% more than last year. This means we once again collected and distributed more than £1 million for each member of staff at ALCS. I'm really proud of that achievement. Since ALCS started, we have now collected and distributed over £600 million of secondary royalty income to authors and their beneficiaries. Investment income was up at £0.9 million this year, which covered around 18% of our cost base. We use this income to defray expenses, which helps to keep our commission rate as low as possible for the benefit of our existing members. At the end of March, the fair market value of our portfolio was £5.3 million more than the cost, compared to £5.1 million at the end of the previous year. Although this has dropped quite substantially with the current volatility in the market, the portfolio continues to exceed original book cost, and both the board and the Finance and Audit Committee are regularly monitoring the portfolio and taking appropriate investment advice. This year, we made an operating surplus, excluding the fair value movement on investments, of £346,779, which the board has decided to return to members as a commission refund in March 2023. And as Barbara mentioned earlier, this reduces the headline commission rate from 9.5% to 8.7%. If we now look at the trend of results over the last 15 years, the increases in the key figures clearly show the progress we have made over that period. Licence income has increased by 80% and royalties paid by 125%. And despite all the modernisation and system improvements we've made, and our membership virtually doubling during that period, costs have been kept under control, rising by 130%. Indeed, costs per member have actually fallen by 19%. Moving on now to the statement of financial position, this shows the company's assets and liabilities at the 31st of March 2022. Our total assets decreased slightly to 50.9 million. The main elements of this are our investment and cash holdings. All our investments are made using a medium to long-term horizon with a view to maintaining the value of our assets in real terms and delivering an income which, as I mentioned earlier, is used to keep commission rates down. Our creditors also decreased slightly during the year to 42.3 million, the vast majority of which is money due to writers, which has yet to be distributed. The directors decided to consolidate the legal fund into the accumulated income fund this year, and the unrealised surplus on our estimates increased, meaning our total reserves stand at £8.1 million at year end. I hope you'll agree that once again we have an excellent set of results, and I therefore commend these accounts to the members. Thank you.
Okay, agenda item 1, to receive and adopt the Board of Directors report and accounts for the period 1st of April 2021 to the 31st of March 2022. Thank you, Mark, as well. That's in the script. Came afterwards. Are there any questions on the Directors' reports before we do that? No? Yeah, sorry, yes.
The amount staff are paid, is that available anywhere?
A total figure for the...
No, individual.
Well, each individual member of staff?
Not, I mean the most senior staff.
Oh, yeah, that's available, isn't it?
Chief Executives in the accounts.
Yeah.
The other key senior management personnel are also in the accounts, but below that level we don't report it, other than as a total.
Okay, thank you.
Is that okay? Thank you. Any other questions? No? On there?
Are our investments invested ethically?
They are. We have a specific socially responsible investment fund that we opened 3 years ago now, and we have a variety of investment managers who look after them, and the Finance and Audit Committee review them every year. There's a performance review. Part of that is the ethical nature of those investments, and they all use, it's still a sort of growing business, so they all use slightly different monitoring techniques, but I would say that ethical, social and governance considerations are prime among them, and we test them very thoroughly on that.
Yeah, I'd support that, yes, definitely. Anyone else? Any other questions? No? Okay. If there are no more questions, could I ask for a proposer and a seconder, please, for the resolution to receive and adopt the Board of Directors report and accounts for the period 1st of April 2021, 31st March 2022. A proposer? Got Di in the front.
I think
yeah.
at the back as well.
At the back. And a seconder? Or one of those two. Yeah.
And done.
Right. Thank you. We will vote by show of hands. Please remember only ordinary and successor members of ALCS are entitled to vote, and if you've done so online already, please don't vote again. May we have a show of hands for all those in favour? Thank you. And against? Any abstentions? Thank you. I can also confirm that we received the following votes online on this item. I can confirm that the ALCS 2021-22 Directors' Report and Accounts have been adopted. Okay, agenda item 2, the next one is to receive and adopt the annual transparency report. I'll now pass over to Richard again to introduce the annual transparency report. Thanks. Thank you. Up and down, up and down. I know it's off there, I think, isn't it? Sorry,
in addition to the accounts, the AGM papers also included the ALCS annual transparency report, which is a requirement of the legal regulations that govern the work of our sector. The regulations are fairly prescriptive in terms of how the information is set out, but in compiling the report, we have tried to present financial and operation information in a way that fits with the regulations, but also provides useful information to you, our members. To this end, we've worked with other bodies in the sector, as well as our regulator, the Intellectual Property Office. Before we move to the vote, can I ask if anyone has any questions on this year's report? Okay, so I'll hand you back to Tony for the voting.
Thank you. Can I ask for a proposer and a seconder? Again, a proposer? Yeah. Seconder? Thank you. Could we have a show of hands for those in favour of the agenda item? Thank you. And those against? Any abstentions? Thank you. I can also confirm that we received the following votes online on this. And I can now confirm that the annual transparency report has been adopted. Thank you. Agenda item, excuse me. Agenda item 3, to reappoint Messrs Shipley's LLP of 10 Orange Street, London, WC2, as auditors of the company and to authorise the directors to fix their remuneration. The third item of the formal proceedings regards the appointment of the auditors. The Finance and Audit Committee review the service quality of the auditors and the needs of the organisation. Their recommendation is the reappointment of Messrs Shipley's LLP as external auditors. Are there any questions on this agenda item? Does anyone want to know about the auditors? Yes, Hugh?
How many years have they been auditors? They've just come to the end of their third year. They're appointed for a period of 3 years, and we can extend that to 6 years. But that's the maximum any firm of auditors can audit our books. So at the end of 6 years, there's a mandatory change, which I think is probably better than best practice.
We're quite happy with them, though, aren't we?
Yeah.
They're very good.
They're very good.
They're very good.
And their fees went down this year.
Yeah. Always good. Always good.
Music to an FD's heart.
Good. So that one's okay. I can confirm we received the following. I've done the vote on that, have I? Did I do the vote on that? No, sorry. They all blur into one. So may I ask for a proposer and a seconder for this resolution? Don't be shy now. Come on, someone. Yeah, seconder. You've got both there, yeah, over there, at the back. Could we have a show of hands for those in favour of the resolution? Thank you. Could we have any against? Abstentions? And these are the votes we got online. So I can confirm the reappointment of Messrs Shipley's LLP as our auditors. Agenda item 4, to consider and, if thought appropriate, approve the recommendations of the Remuneration Committee regarding directors' fees for 2022-2023. Next item on the agenda is directors' fees for 22 to 23. The Remuneration Committee of the Board has recommended that the remuneration paid to directors for 2022 to 23 should be increased by 5.4% from the rate set for 21-22, and where there was no increase in remuneration for that year. The annual accounts and transparency report set out the level of payments made to directors during the 2021 to 22 financial year. Are there any questions on this item? Oh, yeah, over there. Can you wait for the microphone?
When you say directors, this is the board?
Yes.
So they're sort of lay people who sit on the board, like yourself?
Yeah, the directors, the majority of the directors are elected. We have elections whenever there's a vacancy, and then they're writers. And we have 3 places for what we describe as co-opted directors who are selected to really fill out any skills gaps we might have among the elected directors. So that's 8 altogether. We could have up to 11, but we only have 8, and me as chair. So no, I wouldn't describe us as lay people. We're all writers who are all interested in the the world of professional writing and have a lot of experience.
But when I say lay, I mean you're not staff members. And you
Not
get
staff members.
You get an honorarium, do you?
Yeah, but
each year?
no, it's a fee.
How much you get
It's
paid?
Annual fee, but it's 10,000 for a director. We've got
Yeah.
10,088, and my remuneration is in the accounts, so you can look that up.
How much is it?
It's 40,000.
Thank you.
Is that okay? Any other questions on that item? Okay, good. May I ask for a proposer and a seconder for this resolution?
Lovely. Sorry, your name? Okay, thank you.
So we've got both?
Yeah.
Jolly good. Can I have a show of hands for those in favour? Hands down there. Can I have a show against? Anybody? Abstentions? Thank you. Jolly good. We received the following votes online. And I can confirm that the director's fees have been approved at the rate set for 22 to 23. Agenda item 5, to consider and, if thought appropriate, approve the passing of the following resolution as a special resolution. That the draft regulations which have been available for inspection on the website be adopted as the memorandum and articles of association of the company, to the exclusion of and in substitution for the existing memorandum and articles of association of the company. And I need to hand over to Richard, who's our expert in this area.
As set out in the explanatory notes accompanying the agenda, the board is proposing 2 changes to the company's memorandum and articles of association this year. The first extends the range of potentially licensable copyright works to include sound recordings, and the reason for this change is linked to what I was saying earlier about business development opportunities, and we're looking at a boom in audio and in particular in podcasting. You know, many of our members are getting into that field at the moment. In the event that we can establish a collective license for that type of works, it may be at the aggregation level of players like Spotify and YouTube, but we'll obviously come back to you as our plans develop in this area. The second change allows us to deploy further technology to enable members to participate remotely in future AGMs. Before handing you back to Tony for the vote, may I ask if anyone has any questions on these changes?
Okay, may I ask for a proposer and a seconder for this resolution? Yeah, okay. Okay, the resolution is the draft regulations which have been available for inspection on the website be adopted as the memorandum and articles of association of the company to the exclusion of and in substitution for the existing memorandum and articles of association of the company. Could we have a show of hands in favour for that resolution? Against? Any abstentions? One at the back, one abstention. Thank you. I can confirm we received the following votes online for this item. So I can confirm the special resolution has been approved. Agenda item 6, to consider and, if thought appropriate, approve the passing of the following resolution as an ordinary resolution. That the amendments to the distribution rules made available for inspection on the website be approved in accordance with the company's articles of association. As set out in the explanatory notes accompanying the agenda, there are 2 substantive changes being proposed to the rules. The first is the proposed change in the permitted commission rate, which Barbara explained earlier. The second extends our current complaints procedure to allow for an independent body to appoint an arbiter for unresolved complaints. Are there any questions on this agenda item? Any questions? No? Okay, can we have a proposer and a seconder?
Ah, right. I've got new faces, new hands going up here. Could you give me your name, sir? Brian Thorne. Okay. And the other hand, was that Pamela? Pamela Minette. Lovely. Thank you, Pamela.
Okay, so can we have a show of hands for the resolution? Thank you. Against? Thank you. Abstentions? I can confirm we had these votes online. And I can confirm that the ordinary resolution has been approved. Announcement of the result of the election for ALCS board directors. This is item 7. The next item is the announcement. We were delighted by both the number and calibre of members who put themselves forward for election. This year we had a considerable number of candidates for the 2 vacancies, and these are all shown on the slide. I think we've got lots. There was a large number this year. But I am now delighted to announce that James McConaughey and Maggie G have been, in both cases, re-elected to the ALCS board. Welcome back, James, and welcome back, Maggie. She can't be here today, but welcome to Maggie. So I'm actually, it says in the script, ask successful candidates to stand. So there you go, James. Ta-da! And could we have another round of applause for all the candidates who put themselves forward this year? And as we mentioned before, we've been recruiting for a new ALCS chair. This job has been meticulously undertaken by a board chair selection panel. And just the other day, the board appointed the new chair, and I'm delighted to announce that this is Jo Revel. She has a fantastic resume, and I know ALCS will be in safe hands in the future. So Jo's here today, so if you want to come up and say a few words, Jo.
Hello everyone, and what a delight to meet you and be in person again, and particularly after the COVID years. It is a huge privilege for me to be able to take on this role, and I think particularly at this point in time when I see us as a hugely beneficial force in a naughty world, and a time when you have never needed more writers and more authors to take forward ideas, creation, education, information. And the society, with its 117,000 members, is at the heart of all these debates around what creation really means and how we safeguard the position of authors in our society, not just in the UK, but globally. And I'd like to pay tribute to Tony's work, this extraordinary legacy, if I'm allowed to use the legacy word, of the past 6 years, because, you know, the success of a society doesn't happen by accident. The fact that we're paying out more money that's due to writers than ever before, and the scale of the membership is due to the work that Tony's led with very dedicated board and a very dedicated team of staff, now led so ably by Barbara. And just my thanks to everybody, and I look forward to meeting you again next year. Thank you.
Thanks, Jo. I can't help but mention the previous transition, actually. That was a lot easier than the last one. I don't know if anyone was there in London when my predecessor made a speech which trashed the board and went on for quite a long time, and I had to tear up my own speech and make another one instead, so which was a lot of fun. But Jo, she's been terrific. I spent a lot of time talking to her last night, and I think she's going to be a great chair, and so I'm really happy to leave ALCS in safe hands. So thank you very much. We're coming to the conclusion of the ALCS AGM, but I would like to offer the opportunity to any members to ask questions to the executive on our work. So if you got any questions to ask us, now's your chance. Is there anything you'd like to ask? And that can be on anything, actually.
I have one, actually, Tony, that we've received online, which I'm going to read out, which is, can you explain the decision not to allow contributions to newspaper magazines to be considered for payment post-2020? And I think this is probably one for the team.
Yeah, Richard? Yeah, come on. Yeah, come on.
So the collective licensing schemes include thousands, tens of thousands of individual titles from different publishers, but periodically we're advised that certain titles, or perhaps even a whole publisher, has moved their repertoire out of the collective license. And that was the case at the end of last year with a number of newspaper magazine supplements. So they no longer fall within the license, which is why we no longer pay for them. That doesn't mean that they're not paid for at all, it's just not through ALCS. So if you've written an article in a newspaper magazine title, the best thing to do is to talk to your publisher about where to get your secondary revenues going forward.
Thank you, Richard. Okay, any other questions? Anything at all? we're here, we're going to have the reception afterwards with some drinks. So if you do have any questions you'd just like to ask us, we're the ones that will be wandering around, looking as if we don't want to ask on any questions.
No, we don't mind.
We do like answering questions. So no, so ask anything and we'll be here and for quite a while. Okay. Sadly, this year, Joan Smith comes to the end of her second 6-year term on the board, and I'd like to thank her for her time, expertise and commitment to ALCS, particularly now because Joan chaired the chair selection panel and did a terrific job and came up with Joe with the rest of the panel as well. So thank you very much for everything you've done, Joe. It's been great work. I'd also, you're going to get thanked twice today. Now I'd like to thank all the ALCS board directors. Can I ask all of you to stand up so that everyone can see who you are? We name the guilty people. There you go.
No tomatoes.
No tomatoes. Thank you very much. Thank you. The role of a director of ALCS requires a high level of commitment, expertise and energy, and your board maintains these qualities throughout some long and demanding board meetings, as well as the challenging committee work the board members undertake. I'd like to thank them personally for all their hard work. We had a terrific board meeting this morning, didn't we? We had a very, very high level, very interesting board meeting. As you've heard today, it's been a busy and successful year, and none of it could have been achieved without the ALCS staff. And again, this is coming from me personally, you've all been great. So I'd really like, on behalf of all our members, to thank you, the staff, for all the hard work you do for writers all year round. So thank you very much. There you go. It's your turn, isn't it? Whoa.
I have to have my moment.
Smooth, very smooth.
Yeah. Oh dear. Tony, before we end, I'd like to thank you on behalf of ALCS staff, board and the membership for your 6 tireless years of service as chair of ALCS. No, he didn't write this part, so it's fine. Whilst I know it's a pleasure to be working with such a great company and such a great cause, it's also required a significant sacrifice from Tony as he's put his writing career into second place to help us achieve the greater heights that we've achieved over the past few years. As a chair, he's been inspirational to work with. He's kept us focused, accountable, and has at times been a hard but fair taskmaster. But what a legacy to leave behind, the company in such good shape and with a clear pathway for the future. So our thanks for your hard work and dedication, Tony. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, being a writer, we're all very shy. You know, and,
no, it's not.
I'm particularly shy and don't like public speaking. That's what. But I've got to say something. Barbara warned me before this. Just take 2 minutes. That's all you got, 2 minutes. But I have to say something. It has been an amazing 6 years. So I'd like to thank everyone for everything. It's been really great. I've loved being chair. Loved working with the staff. You know, it's a home from home. You know, I like to wander into the office. But it's a strange thing because I said to my daughter, she said to me, my oldest, she said, what are you going to do now, Dad? You've got a lot of time. I said, well, I suppose I'll just go back to being just a writer. And she looked at me and she said, there is no such thing as just a writer. I thought, I brought this girl up very well. And she's right, you know, and it made me think about all the strange combinations and the way fate works in writers' lives. Because when I started out as a kid in South London from a dysfunctional working class family with all sorts of problems, my dad said to me quite a lot when I was at school, he said, what do you want to do when you grow up? I said, you know, by that time I was a long-haired left-wing kind of student, and I said, I want to be the man like you, Dad. I don't want to have to go to an office and wear a suit. So I didn't. I became a writer, worked very hard. I've been a very successful writer and really enjoyed my writing career, but then I ended up being an activist at the Union, the Society of Authors, chair of the children's group there. Because of that, I came to ALCS, enjoyed ALCS, and ended up as chair. Bizarrely, the office moved from Holborn at one point to Hayes Galleria on the South Bank. I don't know if you know it, but it's right next to Tower Bridge, and right next to Tower Bridge there is also HMS Belfast. My dad was on HMS Belfast in the war. He actually was on it between sort of late 43 into 44. And it was a big part of, because I knew about that and I knew about having got me interested in history. And of course, I've ended up writing historical fiction. So my very first board meeting, the boardroom as chair at the new office, actually looked down onto the Belfast. And it was bizarre. And my dad, he always used to say that his action stations was on one side of the bridge. So I could see where he would have been in 1943. So it was a really strange moment. So I had to sort of go in before my first meeting as chair and sit there and say, I'm here, Dad, I'm wearing a suit, and I've got a tie on as well. So I did that, and that was really strange. But on the way there, I'd go out of Blackfriars, because I come in from South London, and I walked past the Globe. And the most important writer to me in my teens, the one that really made me want to be a writer, was some bloke called William Shakespeare. And so all these things come together, and it was very, very strange to have to do that. But I brought my copy of The Tempest with me today. Two of the directors who are up here today said, we know what you're going to do, we know what you're going to say, but the kind of combination of my daughter saying, you're not just a writer, there's no such thing as just a writer, made me think of the end of The Tempest. And it's a lovely story because everyone says about The Tempest it was Prospero's last play, Shakespeare's last play. He's laying down his art, he's going to retire. We've been talking about moving. My wife said, I want to move to the country. I said, when Shakespeare retired, he moved to Stratford and died, 4 years later. So we're not doing that. So all of those things came together. And over the last couple of weeks, all I can think of is the speech. Our revels now are ended. And you go through all the cloud-capped towers, the gorgeous palaces, all gone, leave not a rack behind. We are such stuff as dreams are made on, and our little life is rounded with a sleep. Writers are such stuff as dreams are made on, and I know it's a cliche, but it's a really important thing to remember that we writers actually create, we make things, and we generate books and ideas and TV programs and wealth and all those kinds of things, and that's why Alcs is so important. The last line, maybe actually the very last line, is when he says, I'm thence retire me to my Millen, where every third thought shall be my grave. No, that's not going to be mine, because I've actually got a book to write before the end of the year. So all I'm going to say now is thank you very much for listening to me now. Thank you to Barbara, great CEO for the future, and I wish you all the best. Oh yeah, and there's drinks downstairs. Okay?